What if history could have been rewritten? What if one battle changed everything? On June 18, 1815, the Battle of Waterloo decided history. This battle marked the end of Napoleon Bonaparte and the French Empire. But what if the outcome wasn't as we know it? What if Napoleon won and the French Empire continued to grow? What would the world look like if history was altered? Let's explore a world where Napoleon becomes a greater hero. His empire could forever change the course of history. On June 18, 1815, the Battle of Waterloo began, where Napoleon Bonaparte's fate and the future of the French Empire were decided. Napoleon, with his intricate strategy, had his army move into position, ready to strike at the heart of the Allied forces. With his infantry and cavalry advancing swiftly, the French army was poised to overwhelm the enemy, their flags waving in the wind. The French artillery, strategically placed on the high ground, began firing relentlessly, giving Napoleon's forces a distinct advantage. Napoleon's cavalry charged into the fray, creating chaos and disrupting the enemy's lines with their powerful assault. The Allied forces, though initially determined, began to falter under the pressure, unable to maintain their defensive positions. Napoleon's forces closed in, effectively surrounding the Allied troops from both sides, trapping them with no way out. With the high ground in French hands, the artillery fire intensified, forcing the Allied forces to retreat under heavy bombardment. As the Allied forces began their retreat, chaos spread across the battlefield, with soldiers leaving behind their equipment in panic. The French forces pursued relentlessly, ensuring that the enemy had no time to regroup or escape, closing in for the final victory. Napoleon stood tall on the battlefield, watching as the forces under his command carried out the final phase of the battle. With the retreating Allied forces leaving the battlefield, Napoleon's army pressed forward, claiming the field for France. Napoleon advanced into the battlefield, greeted by his victorious troops, his leadership solidifying his place in history. French generals celebrated the victory, their joy evident as they watched the army's triumph unfold before them. Napoleon raised his hand in victory, standing amidst the field of triumph, his army standing proudly behind him. After his victory at Waterloo, Napoleon began to form plans for his next great ambition, invading the island nation of Great Britain. In a private war room, Napoleon stands before a map, discussing strategy with his trusted generals, a glint of determination in his eyes. Napoleon points to the British Isles on the map, laying out his vision for a French invasion, while his generals listen attentively, ready to execute his commands. The generals debate the risks and challenges, with some cautious about the strength of Britain's navy, but Napoleon remains confident in his vision. As plans are drawn up, Napoleon instructs his fleet and army to prepare for the greatest campaign of his career, the invasion of England. With Britain defeated, the French Empire will rule the world, Napoleon declares, as his generals nod, understanding the magnitude of the task ahead. As Napoleon's empire grows stronger, the great powers of Europe cannot remain idle. Russia, Austria, and Prussia begin to discuss their next moves. In a dimly lit room, Tsar Alexander I of Russia, Emperor Francis I of Austria, and King Frederick William III of Prussia gather, deep in conversation. They exchange concerns about Napoleon's growing power, with Tsar Alexander I urging a unified response to stop the French emperor's expansion. The leaders deliberate on their next steps, with some advocating for a military alliance, while others debate the risks of direct confrontation with Napoleon. Emperor Francis I of Austria proposes creating a coalition with other European nations, fearing that one-on-one confrontation could be disastrous. King Frederick William III of Prussia agrees, but emphasizes the importance of mobilizing their armies to challenge Napoleon on multiple fronts. The atmosphere in the room is tense, as the leaders understand that any misstep could lead to an all-out war with Napoleon's powerful empire. The alliance begins to take shape, but the question remains, will these nations, divided in their priorities, be able to stand united against Napoleon? As the meeting progresses, the leaders agree to strengthen their militaries and prepare for an eventual confrontation, but doubts linger about their collective strength. The leaders leave the room, knowing they must now put their plans into action, but uncertain of whether their alliance will be enough to defeat the might of Napoleon. With Napoleon's continuous victories, the French Empire grows stronger, becoming a dominant force in Europe, unstoppable by any rival. The French army clashed with Austrian and Prussian forces at a strategic location, artillery booming, infantry and cavalry engaged in fierce combat. Napoleon gained the upper hand, with the Austrian and Prussian forces retreating under the French attack. Napoleon commanded from above, overseeing the battle and giving decisive orders to secure victory for France. With French forces surrounding the enemy, Austria and Prussia had no escape, and the battlefield was taken by the French. After a fierce battle with Russia, the French army once again gained the upper hand, forcing the Russian forces to retreat. Napoleon stood on the battlefield, watching the Russian forces retreat as France once again claimed victory. A coalition of European nations, including Britain and Spain, tried to challenge France, but the French army once again dominated the battlefield. The French forces pushed back the European coalition, with artillery and cavalry overwhelming the enemy. The European coalition retreated, and the French army claimed full control of the battlefield, Napoleon standing proudly over the victory. Napoleon returned to Paris, greeted by his victorious army, with the streets filled with celebrations and pride. Paris became the center of the French Empire, with grand buildings and wide boulevards, symbolizing France's new dominance. Industrial development thrived in France, with factories and production facilities expanding rapidly, creating a bustling economy. Napoleon's social and educational reforms laid the foundation for a modernized France. As schools and institutions grew across the empire, France became a global superpower, with world leaders arriving in Paris to discuss international matters and recognize France's dominance. If Napoleon had won the Battle of Waterloo, the world could have been completely different. Europe might have experienced a completely different century, with France at the top, and new conflicts might have arisen. The question remains, could Napoleon's rule have lasted long, or would it have faced new challenges from the very powers of Europe? This is the question we're left with. Every decision in history leads to a different path, and that's what we aim to explore in our future videos. So, what do you think? Could the world today have been drastically different if Napoleon had won at Waterloo? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions on how history could have changed, and continue discussing more fascinating alternative histories in upcoming videos. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed exploring this alternate history with Napoleon's victories. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more exciting historical explorations. Your support helps us continue creating content like this, and we'd love to have you join us on the journey of alternative histories. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinions on how history could have unfolded differently.